So, what does science shows us from a material point of view? A body is a machine, just like the universe is a machine. It's made out of physical things. Great. I say, but how does it work? Oh, well, when a machine is complicated, then what do? You take it apart. And as you take it apart, you see the pieces, and then understand how the pieces work. And when you understand how the pieces work, you can put all the pieces back together and understand how the whole big thing works. So what does biology do? Start taking apart the body. Gross anatomy just looked at the gross structures, but microscopic anatomy, histology, said, wait, inside all those structures, bone, muscle, skin, brain, there are cells, that the cells are the building block of everything. And then the question is, well, if the cells are creating life, then what controls the cells? Well, in 1953, the world was introduced to the concept of the DNA double helix. And this is a result that actually in 1945, it was demonstrated that DNA was the molecule that controlled the character of an organism. But it wasn't really understood until about 1953 when Watson and Crick gave us this DNA double helix molecule. But at this moment, because we're really looking at the world in a different way, I want to bring in a Me Too moment here. And that is this. Watson and Crick, yes, they're the ones we associate with the DNA double helix. But here's the most important point is that the understanding that DNA was a double helix and how it worked didn't come from those guys. It came from a woman, Rosalind Franklin. And why I say that's relevant because her major advisor, Rosalind Franklin's major advisor, gave her research to Watson and Crick without Rosalind even knowing what was happening. And while they took her research, they advanced the conclusion that Rosalind didn't even know was being done because she was the one that had the data originally. So I want to correct an issue. The DNA double helix really came from Rosalind Franklin and then introduced and modified by Watson and Crick, that a woman was the one who founded the DNA story. I go, so what happened? I said, well, 5 years later, after 1953, 1958, Francis Crick, one of the so-called co-founders of the DNA story, comes up with something called the central dogma. The central dogma is the actual word that describes the hypothesis from Francis Crick. And what was his hypothesis? He said information in biology goes only in one direction. It starts with the DNA and then goes to the RNA, which is a Xerox copy of the gene, and then that goes to protein. So I say, oh, there's a unidirectional flow of information. I go, according to the central dogma, it is. I go, so what is it? DNA turned into RNA, goes into protein. I say, so why is it relevant? And I say, well, who are we? What is a human in this little scheme right here? And I go, a human is the protein. Then I say, can the protein, the human body, go back and change the DNA? And the answer is no. It's unidirectional the other way. And I say, so why is that relevant? It says we have no control over our genes. Our genes control us. We don't control them. And it's called the central dogma. And it's very interesting to me because I was teaching this in medical school for a while. And then at one point when I left the system, I said, I never looked up the word. What is the actual meaning of dogma? And when I read it, it's like, oh my God, because dogma is a belief based on religious persuasion and not scientific fact. And all of a sudden I go, oh my God, the central dogma is religion. I go, yes, I was teaching religion about genetics in medical school because it was never a valid understanding. It was a hypothesis that Francis Crick offered. And I go, what was the relevance? Well, once it was published, everyone goes, yeah, that seems right to me. Does it seem right to you? Yeah, it seems right to me. Everybody seems, oh, let's vote. How many believe in this? And everybody put their hands up. And then the hypothesis became truth. It was published in 58. It was in the books in 68. It's in the textbooks in 78, 88, 98, 2008, whatever. It's still there. I go, why is it relevant? It was never scientifically validated. The dogma is a hypothesis. Now I'm going to tell you the simple truth. It is totally wrong. I go, why? Because it says you're a victim. But as we're going to go into, you're not a victim, you're a master. So the idea that genes control life, which you've heard ever since growing up, turns out to be a false misperception. Uh-oh, what's the problem? A misperception is disempowerment. If you believe genes control your life, then you've given up control of your life.